Leonard Washington's mop hit the marble floor with a wet slap. The Ashford Foundation Gala was in full swing. Rich people in diamonds and designer suits. He was just the janitor, invisible. "Get away from me with that dirty rag!" Mrs. Patricia Hawthorne recoiled like he carried a disease. Her voice was loud, intentional. "People like you belong in the back." Guests turned. Some smiled. Leonard kept his eyes down, kept working. But his hands were shaking. Not from the insult. From what he'd just seen upstairs in the hallway. A portrait on the wall. A young woman in an old photograph. The same face he'd kissed goodnight for 27 years. The same birthmark is shaped like a crescent moon. His wife. Dead 3 years now. Her picture. In a billionaire's mansion. Why? Have you ever found something that made your entire life feel like a lie? Leonard was about to discover his wife had a secret worth millions, a secret someone killed to protect. Leonard lived in a studio apartment on the South Side, peeling paint, a radiator that clanged all night, neighbors shouting through thin walls. He'd worked as a janitor for 17 years, different buildings, different faces, same invisible existence. His wife, Marianne, had died 3 years ago. Lupus complications. The disease ate away at her for 2 years before it finally took her. They met in 1995 at a community center. She was teaching art to kids, paint on her hands. A smile that made him forget his own name. She had smooth brown skin and eyes that sparkled when she laughed. A birthmark on her left shoulder blade, shaped like a crescent moon. "I was adopted," she'd told him on their 3rd date. "Never knew my real parents. The foster system raised me." It never mattered to him. He loved her. That was enough. They got married 6 months later, a small ceremony. Just friends. No family on her side because she had none. They tried for children. 5 miscarriages in 10 years. Each one carved something out of them. Each one left Marianne a little more hollow, but they held on, to each other, like drowning people clutching driftwood. After she died, Leonard kept her ashes on the dresser, her purple scarf draped around the urn. He talked to her sometimes. "Had a rough day, baby. But I'm still here. Still going." Tonight, he couldn't talk. His mind was spinning too fast. The photograph upstairs haunted him. Leonard had been called to cover an extra shift. The Ashford Foundation Gala. Big event. Big money. Double pay. He'd been mopping the 2nd floor. A restricted area. Guests weren't supposed to go up there. But Leonard had been told to clean before the VIPs took private tours. The hallway was lined with portraits. Family photos in expensive frames. The Ashford dynasty on display. Then he saw her. 3rd frame from the left. A young woman, maybe mid-20s, 1980s fashion, big hair, a bright smile, Leonard's mop clattered to the floor. The face, the eyes, the way her smile lifted higher on the left side. And there, visible where the dress cut across her shoulder, a crescent-shaped birthmark. His hands shook as he pulled out his phone. His lock screen was Marianne. Their 10th anniversary photo. He held it up next to the portrait. Identical. The nameplate below read, Catherine Ashford, 1975 to 1998. Beloved daughter. Marianne was born in 1973. She died in 2022. But this woman, Catherine, died in 1998. How could they look exactly the same? How could they have the same birthmark in the same place? Leonard's heart hammered against his ribs. Downstairs, the gala continued. Malcolm Ashford stood at the podium. 68 years old. Silver hair is perfectly styled. Tailored tuxedo. A man who commanded rooms just by entering them. One of Chicago's wealthiest men. Real estate empire. Tech investments. Pharmaceutical companies. His foundation donated millions every year. Schools. Hospitals. scholarships for kids who couldn't afford college. The press called him Chicago's conscience. People loved him. But Leonard noticed something else. The way Malcolm's smile didn't quite reach his eyes, the slight tremor in his hand when he raised his champagne glass, the way he glanced toward the staircase, toward where that portrait hung. His expression shifted. Just for a second. Grief or guilt. After his speech, Malcolm retreated to a private study. Leonard passed by with his cleaning cart. The door was slightly open. Through the gap, Leonard saw the billionaire sit heavily in a leather chair, head in his hands. "Catherine," Malcolm whispered to the empty room, "I'm so sorry." Leonard couldn't leave it alone. During his break, he sat in the service corridor, pulled out his phone, searched for Catherine Ashford. News articles from 1998 appeared. Tragic death of Ashford heiress. Malcolm Ashford mourns only child. Catherine Ashford, only daughter of Malcolm and his late wife Eleanor, died in a car accident at age 25. No survivors. Private funeral. Estate sealed. Leonard scrolled deeper. A smaller article from the Chicago Tribune. May 1997. Ashford daughter estranged. Sources report family rift over secret relationship. The article was vague. Mentioned unconfirmed reports of Catherine dating someone her family didn't approve of. No names. Leonard's pulse quickened. Catherine died in 1998. Mary Ann was adopted as a baby. The record said she was born in 1973, found abandoned at a hospital in Springfield. But what if the records were wrong? What if Catherine wasn't just some random woman who looked like Mary Ann? What if they were connected? Leonard stared at the photo on his phone. Mary Ann smiling at the beach, the crescent moon birthmark visible on her shoulder. He thought about Malcolm Ashford whispering apologies to a dead daughter. He thought about the locked study, the sealed estate, the vague news articles. Something had been hidden. Something big. And somehow, his wife was part of it. This was one of those real-life stories that seemed impossible. A black janitor finding his dead wife's face in a billionaire's mansion. The kind of touching stories that changed everything. Leonard didn't know it yet, but he was about to uncover one of the darkest life stories Chicago had ever buried. Leonard volunteered for night shifts at the Ashford Foundation offices. Better pay, they told him. Fewer people around. Easier work. That wasn't why he did it. He needed access. The foundation occupied a historic building downtown. Marble columns, mahogany panels, oil paintings of dead Ashfords watching from every wall. Old records were kept in the basement archive. 3 rooms full of filing cabinets and cardboard boxes. Decades of paperwork nobody looked at anymore. Leonard made friends with Doris, the elderly records clerk. She came in twice a week to organize old files. He brought her coffee, asked about her grandchildren, listened to stories about her late husband. After 3 weeks, she trusted him. "Can you help me move these boxes? My back isn't what it used to be." "Of course, Miss Doris. Happy to help." She let him into the archive alone sometimes, just to reorganize, just to make space. Leonard waited until she left. Then he started searching. Personal files, medical records, legal documents. Everything is labeled 1990s. His hands shook as he opened each box. His heart pounded so loud he was sure someone would hear. Then he found it. A box marked Personal 1990s. Ashford family. Inside were medical records, hospital bills, psychiatric evaluations, all concerning Catherine Ashford. Leonard pulled out his phone, started taking pictures. His hands trembled so badly the first few came out blurry. May 1997. Catherine Ashford hospitalized for nervous breakdown. But buried in the clinical notes, a different diagnosis. Postpartum depression. Postpartum meant after giving birth. Catherine had a baby. Leonard's breath caught in his throat. He kept reading, kept photographing. April 1997. Birth certificate. Catherine Ashford gave birth to a daughter. Father's name, Terrence Mitchell. Occupation, musician. April through May 1997. Court documents. Malcolm Ashford petitioned for medical conservatorship over his daughter, claiming she was unfit to care for herself. June 1997. Adoption papers. Handwritten notes in the margins. She's crying. Says they're forcing her. Won't stop asking for her baby. Leonard's vision blurred. He blinked back tears. Catherine had a baby. A daughter. Born April 8, 1997. Marianne's adoption papers said she was born April 9, 1973. But what if that was a lie? What if someone changed the date? Changed the records? Made a newborn baby disappear into the foster system with a fake history? Leonard kept digging. More documents. More proof. Catherine's baby was born at St. Benedict's Hospital in Chicago. Not Springfield. The adoption was handled by James Rutherford, a private attorney. Leonard searched the name on his phone. James Rutherford. Disbarred in 2005 for ethical violations. Details sealed by court order. The baby was transferred to Springfield General 2 days after birth, with falsified paperwork claiming she'd been abandoned. No mother listed. No father listed. Someone went to great lengths to erase this child's connection to the Ashford family. But why? Leonard found a letter paper-clipped to Catherine's psychiatric evaluation. Handwritten. Malcolm's signature at the bottom. Catherine, you're not well. This man, this musician, he's using you. The child will have a better life with a real family. You'll understand when you recover. We're protecting you. We're protecting our name. I'm doing what your mother would have wanted. Rage built in Leonard's chest. Hot and sharp. They took Catherine's baby. They erased her existence. They convinced a young mother, or forced her, to give up her child. Because the father wasn't suitable. Because he was black. And that child, given a fake birth date, sent to Springfield, adopted into the foster system. That child was Marianne, his wife, the woman he loved for 27 years. She died believing she was unwanted, believing her parents abandoned her. But she wasn't abandoned. She was stolen. Leonard needed more proof. He needed to find Terrence Mitchell. Through social media and public records, Leonard tracked down Terrence Mitchell, 58 years old, living in Detroit, former jazz saxophonist, now taught music at a community college. Leonard called from a payphone outside a gas station. His cell phone felt too risky. The phone rang 4 times. Hello? Mr. Mitchell? My name is Leonard Washington. I need to ask you about Catherine Ashford. Silence on the line. Long enough that Leonard thought the call had dropped. Who are you? I think my wife might have been your daughter. Another pause. Breathing on the other end. Your wife. She died 3 years ago, but I found documents. Catherine Ashford had a baby in April 1997. You were listed as the father. Terrence's voice cracked. They told me Catherine died in childbirth. Both of them. Dead. Malcolm Ashford came to me himself, said if I ever spoke about Catherine or the baby, he'd destroy me. Leonard closed his eyes. I was nobody, a black musician dating his white daughter. He had power, lawyers, money. I was scared. I was 26 years old. I believed him. Catherine didn't die in childbirth. She died a year later. Car accident. Jesus. Terrence sounded shattered. And the baby? I think she survived. I think she was my wife. Marianne. Terrence wept on the phone. Raw, broken sounds. I have a daughter. Had a daughter. I need proof. Do you have anything from back then? Anything that could prove your relationship with Catherine? I have letters, photos. A necklace Catherine gave me. It was her grandmother's. Silver with the Ashford family crest. She said it proved she was serious about us. Can you send it to me? I'll overnight it. 2 days later, a package arrived at Leonard's apartment. Inside were photographs. 25 years old, faded colors, Catherine and Terrence together, arms around each other, faces full of love, a silver necklace with an ornate letter A engraved in the center, and letters, dozens of them. Catherine's handwriting, love letters to Terrence. Leonard read them all. Each one broke his heart a little more. One letter stopped him cold. Terrence, if anything happens to me, please find our daughter. They're going to take her from me. My father says I'm ill, that I can't be trusted. But I'm not crazy. I'm just in love with you, and they can't stand it. If they take our baby, promise me you'll find her. Her birthmark, shaped like a moon on her left shoulder. That's how you'll know her. She's ours. Please don't let her forget she was wanted. Leonard touched the screen of his phone. Marianne's photo, the crescent moon birthmark visible in that beach picture from their honeymoon. Everything fit. The dates, the birthmark, the circumstances. Marianne was Catherine Ashford's daughter, Malcolm Ashford's granddaughter, an heiress, stolen from her mother and erased. And Leonard was her husband, which meant he had standing, legal standing to challenge what was done. But he couldn't go to the police. Not yet. Malcolm Ashford had too much power, too many connections. He needed irrefutable proof. He needed public pressure. Leonard contacted Simone Tucker, an investigative journalist, known for exposing corruption among Chicago's elite. She was black, in her 40s, with a reputation for refusing to back down. They met at a diner on the South Side. Leonard laid out everything. Documents, photos, letters, the necklace, Terrence's testimony. Simone's eyes widened as she read through it all. If this is true, this is massive. Forced adoption, falsified records, conspiracy to hide a birth. But we need DNA. Marianne was cremated. But you have her ashes? DNA can sometimes be extracted from cremated remains. It's difficult. Not always successful, but it is possible. And we need Malcolm's DNA to compare. Leonard nodded slowly. I can get it. I work in his building. These kinds of black stories, these life stories, they don't come along often. Simone looked at him seriously. This will get dangerous. People with power don't like being exposed. Are you ready for that? Leonard thought about Marianne, about Catherine, about all the years stolen from them. I'm ready. Leonard waited for his opportunity. Malcolm Ashford visited the foundation offices every Wednesday for board meetings, regular as clockwork. Leonard studied his routine. Arrival at 9, coffee in the conference room, meetings until noon, then lunch in his private office. He needed something with Malcolm's DNA, something certain. A coffee cup could work, but lipstick stains from others contaminated shared cups. A napkin was too risky, too much handling. Leonard needed something only Malcolm touched. During one Wednesday meeting, Leonard cleaned the adjacent hallway, stayed close, watched through the door's window. Malcolm removed his reading glasses, set them on the table, rubbed the bridge of his nose. After the meeting ended, board members filed out. Malcolm left last, forgot his glasses on the conference table. Leonard's heart hammered as he entered the empty room. The glasses sat beside a notepad, gold frames. Expensive. His hands shook as he pulled out a cotton swab and small plastic bag. He'd watched YouTube videos on DNA collection, felt ridiculous doing it, but he swabbed the nose pads carefully. The temple arms where they touched Malcolm's skin and hair. Sealed the bag, slipped it into his pocket. Are you looking for something? Leonard jumped, nearly dropped the bag. Victor Ashford stood in the doorway. Malcolm's nephew, the foundation's CFO, mid-30s with cold, calculating eyes. Just cleaning, sir. Leonard kept his voice steady. Looked like you were touching Mr. Ashford's personal items. I was moving them to wipe down the table, sir. Victor stepped closer, studied Leonard's face. I've seen you around more than usual. Extra shifts. Late nights. What are you really doing here? Just working, sir. I need the hours. Victor's eyes narrowed. My uncle is a generous man, but he doesn't tolerate people taking advantage. You understand? Yes, sir. I'm watching you. Step out of line once, and you're gone. Victor left, but his threat hung in the air. Leonard exhaled slowly. His hands were still shaking. He was running out of time. Simone had connections with a private lab, a place that handled sensitive cases, paternity disputes, criminal investigations. They knew discretion. Extracting DNA from cremated remains was difficult. The heat destroyed most genetic material, but sometimes fragments survived. Small pieces, enough for comparison. The lab technician was skeptical. I can't promise anything. Cremation reaches temperatures over 1400 degrees. Most DNA is destroyed. But you can try? I can try. 2 weeks later, Simone called. We got it. Not perfect. Partial profile. But enough. Leonard met her at the same diner. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were lab results, charts, numbers. Technical language Leonard didn't understand, but one line was clear. DNA comparison between Sample A, Marianne Washington, and Sample B, Malcolm Ashford. Probability of first-degree kinship, grandparent to grandchild, 99.8%. Leonard stared at the paper, his vision blurred. It was real, all of it. Marianne was Malcolm's granddaughter. She had a family, real family, rich family. She died believing she was alone in the world, an orphan nobody wanted. But she was an heiress. She was wanted. By her mother, by her father. She was stolen. This is everything we need, Simone said. But we need more than just proof. We need to understand why. What was Malcolm hiding? Why go to such lengths? There's something we're still missing, Leonard agreed. Leonard returned to the archives, more desperate now, more reckless. He found a locked cabinet in the back corner, old, heavy, the kind that required a key. He used a screwdriver from his cleaning cart, jimmied the lock. It broke with a crack that sounded too loud. Inside were personal effects, a jewelry box, a hairbrush, a leather-bound diary. Catherine's diary. Leonard's hands trembled as he opened it. The pages were yellowed. The ink faded in places, but Catherine's voice came through, clear and heartbreaking. November 1996. I met someone. Terrence. He plays saxophone at the Blue Note. Dad would hate him, not because he's not wonderful, but because he's black and not our kind. I don't care. I love him. March 1997. I'm pregnant. I'm terrified to tell Dad. Mom died last year and he's been so controlling. Wants me to marry Preston Whitmore. Old money. Corporate lawyer. Someone appropriate. But I love Terrence. I want this baby. April 1997. They took her. The moment she was born, Dad had lawyers there. He said I was hysterical. Postpartum psychosis. He had me committed. Terrence was threatened. Dad said he'd have him arrested for taking advantage of me. I held my baby for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. She had a birthmark shaped like a moon, just like Mom's. I screamed that she was mine, but they sedated me. June 1997. I signed the papers. I had no choice. Dad said if I didn't, he'd make sure I never got out of the facility. He'd have me declared incompetent permanently. At least this way, he said, someone good would adopt her. But I know the truth. He just wants her erased. Evidence of his daughter's shame. I hate him. September 1998. The last entry. I'm getting her back. I hired a private investigator. I found where they placed her. Springfield. I'm going tomorrow. I don't care if Dad disowns me. She's my daughter. The entries stopped. The next day, Catherine died. Leonard requested the police report on Catherine's accident. It was public record. Took 2 weeks to arrive. The report was thin. Too thin. Single car accident on Route 29. Rural road outside Springfield. Catherine's car went off a bridge into the river. Ruled accidental. High speed. Possible weather conditions. But details stood out. No skid marks on the road. No sign Catherine tried to brake. The investigating officer noted anomalies in his initial report, but was overruled by his supervisor. No follow-up investigation was ordered. The supervising officer retired 6 months later, bought a vacation home in Florida, cash purchase. Simone dug deeper into that officer's background. He had connections to James Rutherford, Malcolm's disbarred lawyer. They'd worked together on several cases in the 90s. This wasn't an accident, Simone said. They killed her. We can't prove that, Leonard cautioned. The timing? She finds out where her daughter is. She's driving to get her. And suddenly she's dead? A cop with connections to Ashford's lawyer shuts down the investigation? Leonard felt cold. Malcolm killed his own daughter? Or had it done? To protect his reputation, to keep the scandal buried. These are the kind of touching stories that sound impossible. But Leonard was learning that the powerful wrote their own truths. These real-life stories, the ones about injustice and corruption, happen every day. That night, Leonard came home to find his apartment door kicked in. Inside was chaos. Furniture overturned. Drawers emptied, clothes scattered, but his TV was still there, his laptop untouched. What was missing? Marianne's ashes. The urn from the dresser. Gone. Leonard's blood ran cold. They were eliminating evidence. His phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Washington. Victor Ashford's voice. Smooth. Threatening. You've been digging where you don't belong. This is your warning. Drop whatever you think you've found, or things will get much worse. You broke into my home. You stole my wife's remains. I have no idea what you're talking about. But I will say this. Accidents happen. Catherine Ashford learned that. Your wife learned that. You could too. The line went dead. Leonard stood in his ransacked apartment, hands shaking with rage and fear. But Simone had copies of everything. The documents, the photos, the DNA results. They couldn't erase it all. Not anymore. Leonard and Simone decided they couldn't wait anymore. Victor's threats meant time was running out. If they are delayed, evidence might disappear. Witnesses might be silenced. They had to go public. Now. Simone published her investigative report online at midnight on a Thursday. Her website, her reputation behind every word. The headline, The Billionaire's Secret, How Malcolm Ashford Erased His Granddaughter. The article laid out everything. DNA evidence proving Marianne Washington was Malcolm Ashford's granddaughter. Catherine's diary entries. Forged adoption documents. Terrence's testimony about being threatened and lied to. Questions about Catherine's suspicious death. The corrupt police investigation. The disbarred lawyer. And photos. Catherine and Terrence together. The silver necklace. Marianne's face next to Catherine's portrait. The resemblance was undeniable. Within 2 hours, the story went viral. By morning, Ashford's scandal was trending nationwide. News outlets picked it up. CNN, MSNBC. Local Chicago stations camped outside the Ashford Foundation. The story touched every nerve. Race, class, power. A black man's wife, an heiress stolen as a baby. Erased because her father was black. People were outraged. Leonard did interviews. His face was suddenly everywhere. Network television, podcasts, news websites. "I just want the truth," he said on camera. "My wife died believing she was nobody. But she was somebody. She mattered." Protesters gathered outside the Ashford Foundation. Some held signs supporting Leonard. Justice for Marianne. Others supported Malcolm. Innocent until proven guilty. But Malcolm Ashford fought back. Hard. Within 48 hours, his legal team struck. They held a press conference. Malcolm's lawyer spoke first. Distinguished. Silver-tongued. Expensive suit. These allegations are based on contaminated evidence and a desperate man's fantasy. Mr. Washington is a janitor with financial problems. He sees an opportunity to extort money. They claim the DNA evidence was fabricated. Too convenient. They produced Catherine's death certificate, her psychiatric records, argued she was emotionally unstable. Her diary is unreliable. They painted Leonard as a con artist. Nobody is trying to get rich. Then they revealed Marianne's old criminal record, a shoplifting charge from her 20s. Dismissed. But they made it sound significant. They even questioned Leonard and Marianne's marriage, implied he married her knowing she might have money. The media became divided. Some supported Leonard, others questioned his motives. Leonard received death threats. Reporters camped outside his apartment. For safety, Leonard moved to Detroit, stayed with Terrence. Meeting his father-in-law under these circumstances felt surreal. Terrence opened the door, looked at Leonard with red-rimmed eyes, and embraced him. "We're family now. We fight together." They stayed up late that night, sharing stories about Marianne, about Catherine. These life stories, these black stories about survival and injustice, they bonded people together. Just when momentum seemed to shift against them, help came from an unexpected source. An encrypted email arrived in Simone's inbox. Subject: "I was Catherine's doctor. I need to speak with you." Simone arranged a meeting, a coffee shop outside Chicago. An elderly woman arrived, 70s, gray hair, tired eyes. "Dr. Patricia Holbrook, retired psychiatrist. I treated Catherine Ashford in 1997. What Malcolm Ashford did was criminal. And I've lived with that guilt for 25 years. She explained everything. Catherine was not psychotic. She was not a danger to herself or her baby. She had postpartum depression. Treatable. She was capable of caring for her child. "Then why did you sign off on her incompetency?" Simone asked. Dr. Holbrook's face filled with shame. "Malcolm Ashford donated millions to our facility. He made it clear. If I didn't sign, funding would disappear. I'd lose my license. He had lawyers ready." She paused. "I was a coward. I signed those papers knowing they were lies." "And then she died," Leonard said quietly. "Yes." Dr. Holbrook's voice cracked. "Catherine told me the week before she died that she'd found her daughter. She was planning to take the case to court, to expose everything. Then she was dead." Dr. Holbrook provided documents, her original psychiatric notes, internal facility memos showing Malcolm's financial pressure, records of meetings with Catherine. "Why come forward now?" Leonard asked. "I'm dying. Cancer. 6 months. Maybe less." Dr. Holbrook looked at him with fierce determination. "I won't meet my maker knowing I let this stand. Malcolm Ashford destroyed that young woman and her child. He needs to face justice." Her testimony changed everything. The media coverage shifted back toward Leonard. The pressure on Malcolm became unbearable. His foundation board demanded answers. Donors pulled funding. Business partners distanced themselves. Malcolm Ashford called a press conference. Leonard, Simone, and Terrence watched from the audience, surrounded by cameras. Malcolm stood at the podium. He'd aged dramatically. His hands shook. His face was pale. "I want to address the allegations, and I want to tell the truth." The room fell silent. Malcolm's voice cracked. Catherine was my daughter, my only child. After my wife died, I became controlling. When Catherine fell in love with Terrence Mitchell, I couldn't accept it. He paused. Not because of who Terrence was. I never gave him a chance. I couldn't accept it because he didn't fit my image of Catherine's future. I was wrong. Leonard leaned forward. When Catherine became pregnant, I panicked. Malcolm continued. I saw a scandal. Shame. So I did something unconscionable. I used my power, my money. I had Catherine committed. I forced her to give up her child. I falsified adoption records. I erased my granddaughter's existence. Gasps rippled through the crowd. But I didn't kill Catherine. Malcolm's voice broke completely. God help me, I didn't. Her death was an accident. I've wondered if it was suicide, if my actions drove her to it. But I swear I didn't kill her. Tears ran down his face. I've lived in hell for 25 years. I built this foundation, gave away millions, trying to atone. But nothing brings Catherine back. Nothing gives Marianne the family she deserved. He looked directly at Leonard. Mr. Washington, your wife was my granddaughter. She deserved to know her mother. I stole that from her. I stole it from you. I'm deeply, profoundly sorry. The room erupted, but Simone wasn't satisfied. That night at Terrence's house, she told Leonard, something's off. Malcolm confessed to the forced adoption, but he was careful about Catherine's death. He said I didn't kill her. She wasn't killed. What are you saying? Leonard asked. I'm saying Malcolm might not have killed Catherine, but someone did. And Malcolm might know who. Simone pulled out her laptop, started researching Victor Ashford. Look at this. Victor joined the family business in 1998, right after Catherine's death. Before that, struggling insurance salesman, debts, drinking problem. So, Catherine's death made Victor's future possible. Simone turned the laptop. With Catherine gone, Victor became Malcolm's heir. Leonard's stomach dropped. Victor had a motive. Victor had an opportunity. Victor broke into Leonard's apartment, stole Marianne's ashes, threatened him. We need to prove it, Leonard said, and I think I know how. Simone smiled grimly. Malcolm confessed to protect his legacy. But will he protect his nephew? We need to make him choose. Simone dug into Victor Ashford's background. Malcolm's nephew, son of Malcolm's deceased brother Richard, raised in the Ashford family after his father died young. But the timeline revealed something interesting. Before 1998, Victor was nobody special. Insurance salesman in the suburbs, mediocre at best. Credit card debt, 2 DUIs, a failed marriage. Then Catherine died in September 1998. By October, Victor joined the Ashford Foundation. Entry-level position at first, but he climbed fast. Within 5 years, he was CFO. Malcolm's right hand, the heir apparent. Catherine's death didn't just happen to benefit Victor. It made his entire future possible. Simone found more connections, financial records from 1998, a payment of $50,000 from a shell company to Victor. The same shell company later linked to the corrupt police officer who investigated Catherine's accident. Victor had paid someone. The question was, what for? Simone brought this to Dr. Holbrook, the psychiatrist who'd treated Catherine. Do you remember anything about Victor visiting Catherine at the facility? Dr. Holbrook thought for a moment. Yes, actually. He came the week before she died. Catherine mentioned it during our session. Said he was acting strange, asking questions about what she planned to do, who she'd told about finding her daughter. What did Catherine say about it? She said Victor seemed nervous, almost scared, like he had something to lose. Everything clicked into place. Victor knew Catherine was going to expose the forced adoption, which would destroy Malcolm's reputation, which would destroy Victor's future with the family. So he stopped her. Permanently. Leonard demands a meeting with Malcolm. Against his lawyer's advice, Malcolm agreed. They met at the mansion, the same place where this all began. Leonard stood in Malcolm's study. The old man looked diminished, smaller somehow. "You know Victor killed Catherine," Leonard said. "No preamble, no politeness." Malcolm's face crumbled. "I don't have proof, but you suspect. You've always suspected." Silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. "Victor came to me the day after Catherine died." Malcolm's voice was barely a whisper. He was shaken, kept saying it was an accident, that he'd just tried to talk to her, that she swerved, that he didn't mean for it to happen. Leonard's hands clenched into fists. "I thought he was in shock." Malcolm continued. "But then details didn't add up. Catherine was an excellent driver. The road was dry that night, no other cars involved, and Victor had scratches on his hands, on his face, like someone had fought him, and you covered for him. He's my brother's son." Malcolm looked up with hollow eyes. "Richard died when Victor was 12. I promised to take care of him, and Catherine was already gone. I couldn't bring her back, but I could save Victor. You let your daughter's killer walk free." Malcolm wept openly. "I told myself it was an accident, that Victor didn't mean it, that destroying his life wouldn't bring Catherine back. But I was wrong. I've been a coward twice, once when I took Catherine's baby, again when I protected her killer. Where are my wife's ashes?" "Victor stole them." Malcolm looked up, genuinely shocked. "What?" "Victor broke into my apartment, took Marianne's ashes. I didn't know. I swear." Malcolm's voice cracked. "Victor's been acting independently. I've been too weak to stop him." Leonard's anger crystallized into cold resolve. "Then help me now. Testify against him. Give me evidence. Your daughter and my wife deserve justice." Malcolm nodded slowly. "I'll give you everything. Financial records, communications. I'll testify. Victor needs to answer for what he did." Leonard and Simone worked with Detective Rashida Coleman, one of the few cops they trusted, a black woman who'd fought her way up through a corrupt department. They set up a sting operation. Malcolm called Victor to his office, wearing a wire. Leonard and police listened from an adjacent room through headphones. "Victor, we need to talk about Catherine." Malcolm's voice sounded tired. "Old. What about her?" Victor's response was cautious. "The Washington case? The journalist? They're asking questions about her death. It was an accident. The report says so. I know what the report says. I paid for what it says. But I need to know the truth, Victor. What really happened that night? Uncle Malcolm, we've been through this. Did you kill her?" Silence. Leonard held his breath. She was going to destroy everything. Victor's voice turned hard, sharp. She was going to expose the adoption, drag the family through the mud, everything you and my father built. She was going to tear it down for some bastard child with a black father. So you killed her. "I didn't mean to." Victor's voice rose. "I just wanted to talk to her, to make her understand." But she wouldn't listen. She tried to drive away. I grabbed the wheel. We struggled. The car went off the road. Leonard's hands shook with rage. "It was an accident," Victor insisted. "You let me think it was just bad luck." Malcolm's voice broke. "You let me grieve thinking my daughter died because of my actions. Not yours. Because you would have turned me in," Victor shouted. "You've always loved Catherine more than me. Even dead, she's more important to you." The door burst open. Detective Coleman and 2 officers entered. "Victor Ashford, you're under arrest for the murder of Catherine Ashford." Victor's face went pale, then red with fury. "You did this!" he screamed at Malcolm as they handcuffed him. "You destroyed her first! I just finished what you started!" They dragged him out, still screaming, still blaming everyone but himself. Malcolm sat in his chair, head in his hands, weeping. The full truth emerged in the media. Malcolm Ashford forced his daughter to give up her baby because of racism and classism. Victor Ashford killed Catherine to protect his inheritance. Malcolm covered up the murder for 25 years. An innocent woman, Marianne Washington, died never knowing she was an heiress, stolen from her mother at birth. Public outrage was unprecedented. The Ashford Foundation Board forced Malcolm to resign. Criminal charges were filed against him. Obstruction of justice. Conspiracy. But something unexpected happened. The public rallied around Leonard. Crowdfunding campaigns raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. People sent letters, shared their own stories of adoption, of loss, of stolen family connections. These touching stories, these real-life stories of injustice, they created a movement. Terrence appeared on national television. My daughter was taken from me and her mother. We were told she was dead. She grew up believing she was unwanted, but she was wanted. She was loved. And even though she's gone, I want everyone to know. Marianne Washington was my daughter. She mattered. The governor of Illinois ordered a review. All private adoptions handled by James Rutherford and his associates. They found dozens of cases with irregularities, mostly involving babies of color, placed without proper consent, records falsified. Families began to reconnect, stolen identities restored. Marianne's story became a catalyst for reform. These black stories, these life stories of people fighting against corrupt systems, they changed laws. They changed lives. Leonard stood outside the courthouse. Reporters surrounded him. This isn't just about my wife anymore. This is about every child stolen from their family. Every parent told their baby died. Every person who grew up believing they weren't wanted. He looked directly into the cameras. Marianne died believing she was alone. But she wasn't, and because of her story, hundreds of other families are finding each other. That's her legacy. That's what matters now. Victor Ashford's trial became a media spectacle. Every major network covered it. Cameras lined up outside the courthouse. Protesters held signs. Justice for Catherine. Justice for Marianne. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence. Malcolm's recorded confession. Victor admitted he grabbed the wheel, that they struggled, that the car went off the bridge. Financial records showing Victor paid the corrupt police officer $50,000 to falsify the accident report, to shut down the investigation. Dr. Holbrook testified, explained how Catherine was planning to expose the truth, how Victor had visited her days before she died, acting nervous, asking questions. Forensic experts re-examined the accident scene. 25 years later, but some evidence remained. Scratch marks inside Catherine's car, on the steering wheel, on the dashboard, consistent with a struggle. Catherine's autopsy showed defensive wounds, scratches on her hands, bruises on her arms. The original report had noted these, but the supervising officer ruled them irrelevant, caused by the crash itself. Now they told a different story. Catherine fought back. She fought for her life. Victor's defense argued the heat of passion, that he never intended to kill her, that it was manslaughter at worst, an accident during an argument, but the prosecution proved premeditation. Victor knew where Catherine was going. He followed her. He stopped her car on that isolated road. He didn't accidentally bump into her. He hunted her down. Then Leonard took the stand. The courtroom fell silent as he walked to the witness box. He wore a simple suit, the only suit he owned, bought for Marianne's funeral. Your Honor, members of the jury. Leonard's voice was steady, strong. I never met Catherine Ashford. I never met my wife's mother. But I knew her daughter. He paused, looked at the jury. Marianne Washington was the kindest person I ever met. She taught art to children who couldn't afford supplies. She bought them herself. She volunteered at homeless shelters. She fostered elderly dogs nobody else wanted. His voice grew stronger. And she died believing she was nobody. That her parents didn't want her. That she was abandoned like trash. But that was a lie. A lie Victor Ashford helped create. A lie he killed to protect. Leonard turned to look at Victor. The defendant sat stone-faced, refusing to meet his eyes. Victor Ashford didn't just kill Catherine. He killed any chance Marianne had of knowing her mother. He stole 25 years of family. He stole grandparents, a father, cousins, a legacy. He didn't just take one life, he took two. The courtroom was completely silent. Marianne died of lupus complications, but she had no family medical history to warn her. Catherine's family has a history of autoimmune disorders. If Marianne had known, she might have sought treatment earlier. She might have caught it sooner. Leonard's voice broke slightly. She might still be alive. He looked back at the jury. Victor Ashford killed my wife twice. Once when he murdered her mother, and again when he ensured she'd never know the medical history that could have saved her life. When Leonard stepped down, there wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Leonard sat in the hallway with Terence and Simone, waiting. His leg bounced nervously. "They'll do the right thing," Terence said quietly. "They have to." The bailiff came out. The jury reached a verdict. They filed back into the courtroom. Victor Ashford stood, his lawyer beside him. For the first time, Leonard saw fear in Victor's eyes. "On the count of murder in the second degree, how do you find?" The jury foreman stood. "An older black woman, a retired teacher. We find the defendant guilty." The courtroom erupted. Cheers, crying. Victor's face went pale. "On the count of conspiracy, how do you find?" "Guilty." "On the count of obstruction of justice, how do you find?" "Guilty." The judge banged his gavel. Sentencing would come later. But everyone knew. Victor Ashford was going to prison for a long time. As they led him away in handcuffs, Victor looked at Leonard, pure hatred in his eyes. But Leonard felt nothing. Just exhaustion. Just a quiet, profound sense that something had finally been set right. Malcolm's trial was separate, shorter. He pleaded guilty to obstruction of justice, conspiracy to cover up a crime. He didn't fight, didn't try to minimize what he'd done. His lawyer argued for leniency. Malcolm's age, his cooperation, his charitable work. The prosecution argued he'd used his wealth and power to pervert justice for 25 years. The judge sentenced him to 5 years, eligible for parole after 3 given his age and cooperation. Before sentencing, Malcolm requested to speak with Leonard. They met in a courthouse conference room. Malcolm looked like he'd aged a decade. "I've signed over half my estate to a trust in Marianne's name." Malcolm's voice was hoarse. "You're the executor. The money will go to causes she cared about. Foster care reform, adoption rights, lupus research." Leonard said nothing. "I know it doesn't fix anything," Malcolm continued. "Catherine is gone. Marianne is gone. I can't bring them back. But I can make sure their story means something. I can make sure other families don't get torn apart the way ours was." "Why?" Leonard finally spoke. "Why did you do it?" "Really?" Malcolm's face contorted with grief. Pride. Fear. "I thought I was protecting my daughter from a mistake. But the truth was I was protecting myself, from having a black son-in-law, from what my friends would say, from losing control of the perfect life I'd built." He looked at Leonard with genuine remorse. "You loved her, Marianne. You loved her the way I should have loved Catherine, unconditionally. I did. I hope someday you can forgive me. Not for me, for Marianne. So her memory isn't poisoned by my sins." Leonard stood to leave. At the door, he paused. "Marianne would have forgiven you. She had that kind of heart. She believed everyone deserved a second chance. I'm not there yet. But maybe someday. It wasn't an absolution, but it wasn't damnation either. Police searched Victor's properties, found Marianne's ashes in a storage unit, hidden behind boxes. Victor had planned to destroy them, but never got the chance. The urn was returned to Leonard, battered but intact. He broke down when he held it again, Terrence's arm around his shoulders. "She's home," Terrence said quietly. They held a proper memorial service, something Marianne never had. Hundreds attended, people whose lives she touched, foster children she'd mentored, shelter volunteers she'd worked with, strangers who'd followed her story and felt connected to her. Simone gave a eulogy. Marianne Washington was denied her birthright, her heritage, her family. But she created a family wherever she went. She loved fiercely. She gave freely. And her story, the injustice of it, the tragedy, has sparked changes that will protect thousands of other families. Marianne's case became the catalyst for landmark legislation, the Marianne Washington Adoption Rights Act. Mandatory DNA database for adoptees to find biological families, prohibition of forced adoptions, transparency requirements, criminalization of falsifying adoption records, medical history access for adoptees. The bill passed with bipartisan support. The governor signed it in a ceremony. Leonard, Terrence, and dozens of adoption reform advocates attended. "This is for every child who was told they weren't wanted," the governor said. "For every family torn apart by prejudice, by classism, by systems that valued reputation over truth. This is for Marianne Washington, who deserved to know she was loved." Leonard accepted the pen used to sign the bill. He'd keep it with Marianne's ashes, a symbol that her death meant something, changed something. 6 months after the trials, Leonard and Terrence stood outside a newly opened community center in South Chicago. The sign above the door read, "The Marianne Washington Center for Arts and Family Services, funded by Malcolm's Trust, designed by Leonard and Terrence, built on the ashes of tragedy." The center offered free art classes for underprivileged children, adoption support services, family reunification counseling, lupus screening and support groups. Everything Marianne would have loved. Terrence taught music here twice a week, saxophone lessons, the same instrument he played when he fell in love with Catherine. Leonard helped run the adoption services, connecting families, sharing resources, telling his story so others wouldn't suffer the same fate. They'd found purpose in their shared loss. A young woman approached, about the age Marianne would have been when Leonard met her. She held her daughter's hand. The little girl clutched a painting. "Mr. Washington?" The woman smiled. "I just wanted to say thank you. My sister was adopted. Because of the new laws, we found each other last month, after 30 years apart." Leonard's chest tightened with emotion. "I'm glad. That's what she would have wanted. Your wife's story brought us back together." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "She saved my family." After the woman left, Terrence put his hand on Leonard's shoulder. "She's helping people, even now." Leonard nodded, couldn't speak past the lump in his throat. Malcolm, released on parole after serving 3 years, contacted Leonard. He was fragile now, moved to a modest apartment, most of his fortune gone to restitution and the trust. They met at a quiet coffee shop. "I found something." Malcolm's hands shook as he placed a small box on the table. It was Catherine's. "My mother's engagement ring. She gave it to Catherine when she turned 18. Leonard opened the box. The ring was simple, elegant. A sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. Catherine was wearing it the night she died. Malcolm's voice cracked. "It's been in police evidence all these years. Just returned. It should have gone to Marianne. It should go to her family now." Leonard accepted it. "Thank you." "How is the center?" Malcolm asked. "Thriving. We've helped reunite 43 families so far. Tears filled Malcolm's eyes. Good. That's good. They would never be family. The wounds were too deep. But there was understanding. Two men who loved the same woman in different ways, both shaped by her loss. Leonard decided it was time to let Mary Ann go. With Terence beside him, he returned to the beach where they'd honeymooned, where that photo with her birthmark had been taken, the place she'd been happiest. They scattered her ashes at sunset. Terence played My One and Only Love on his saxophone. The wind carried the notes across the water, carried Mary Ann away. She knew she was loved, Leonard said quietly. By us. That's what matters. Terence finished playing. Do you think she knows? About all of this? About Catherine? I hope so. I hope wherever she is, she knows her mother loved her, her father loved her. She wasn't abandoned, she was stolen. There's a difference. There is. Terence agreed. They stood in silence, watching the waves. For the first time since finding that photograph, Leonard felt something like peace. The truth had been told. Justice had been served. Mary Ann's legacy lived on in the center, in the law, in the families being reunited. She wasn't forgotten. She wasn't erased. She mattered. Leonard thought about all the touching stories he'd heard at the center. The black stories of families torn apart by systems designed to keep them separated. The life stories of people who fought back, who refused to be invisible. Mary Ann's story was one of them now, part of something bigger, and that meant everything. Leonard Washington asked a simple question. Why is my wife's photo in your mansion? That question unraveled decades of lies, exposed a system built on prejudice, brought down an empire built on stolen love. But more than that, it gave Mary Ann Washington back her name, her story, her truth. She was wanted. She was loved. She was somebody. And in the end, that's all any of us really need to know. That we mattered to someone. That our story was worth telling. That love, real love, survives even the worst injustice. If Mary Ann's story touched your heart, share it. Let others know that every person has value. That every family deserves truth. That justice, even delayed, is worth fighting for. Subscribe to Black Tales Stories to hear more real-life stories like this. Stories of courage, of survival, of love that refuses to die. Because these stories, these life stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, they change the world. One truth at a time.